Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight to it. Now today, the title of this Sabbath slice is Were There Blacks in Greece? Or were there Black Greeks? Wherever I decide to name it. But today, that's what we're going to be going over. Were there so-called black people in Greece? Were there so-called black Greeks? The answer is yes. Now, that's not what we're taught in conventional history. We're taught that all the people that were in Greece from the time that that country, started, and all the different city states within Greece, they all were, so-called Caucasian people. What I got here pulled up is the movie 300, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way, but it's historically inaccurate. Now, if we look here, you see this. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. What's the guy's name again? The actor that played Leonidas. What is the guy's name, man? I know I'm scrolling right past it. Starring Gerald Butler. So Gerald Butler, I think he did a great job at playing Leonidas. However, this should have been a so-called black man. This is not historically accurate. Now, speaking of, it says, and we're going to go into it. So 300 is a 2006 American epic historical action film based on the 1998 comic series by the same name by Frank Miller. Now, that's the thing. This is based on the 1998 comic series 300. So let's look at that comic series done by Frank Miller. And let's see how he depicts the same people, here in 300, which we saw. If you saw this movie, if you heard about it, all the people in it from Sparta were so-called white. Now you had Xerxes and the who did they fight against again? Mind going blank right now. The Persians, that's right. Golly, I'm tripping today. Yeah, so when they fought the Persians were people of color. However, all of the Spartans, they were, Caucasian. But anyway, let's go to that comic series by Frank Miller. So this is the comic series here. Story and art by Frank Miller. This is 300. Okay. 300 by Frank Miller and Lynn Varley. Now look here at the Spartans that are depicted here. Looks just like dreads to me. I don't know any so-called white people that have, long hair that looks plaited or dreaded like that. Especially not a whole army of them. So let's see. Let's go through this comic series here. I see some more hair, but let's get into some more damning evidence here. So these are some of the Spartan warriors. Now look at that. Those are braids or dreads, or locks like Samson had in the scriptures. Look at that. Locks hanging down. All of them got hair hanging out of their Corinthian helmets, which we're going to go to in a minute. All right. And this is in the same movie. Remember, this is based on the 1998 comic series 300. Now look at this. You see this? All these people are so-called black. These are people of color depicted in the original. Sorry for that newness there and everything. But point is, look at Leonidas. Leonidas was the king of Sparta in the movie 300. Now look at him. This guy, and this was done in 1998. The guy Frank Miller, which was infamous comic book and whatever else he did in the comic book world. I think he, you're known for doing a bunch of things. Frank Miller. Yeah, American comic book writer. Daredevil, things of that nature. So this guy is not, just a nobody. He had a lot going on. So this is not somebody that don't know what they talking about. He knows history. And look how he depicted Leonidas. Okay, why is that? Because he knows that these were so-called black people. Like look at all their hair. Look at all their hair. Y'all got dreads and things of that nature. So, and this is actually based on real history. It's called the Battle of Thermopylae that this is based on. I believe it happened in 480 BC. But now this is a Persian, but still look at him. I mean, come on, man. And I think the one that I was on when I first pulled up here is coming up. Let's look at some. Okay, there go Leonidas again. Again, so-called black. Okay. That's who the Spartans were. Now, Sparta is in Greece. So our people, meaning what we call today black people, used to rule over Greece. Okay, we used to live in those lands. You can't think of history, you can't think of people of being interlocked in the same place they are today as they were 2,500 years ago, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. It doesn't work like that at all. Okay, our people have moved in many different places throughout history, and we all been, scattered all over the place. Okay, the scriptures tell you that constantly. Even regular historians will tell you that. Okay, and our people used to be in Greece, and this all lines up with the so-called New Testament, because those are the people that Paul was, who he was writing to in Corinth and Galatia and Thessalonica. All right, so on and so forth. So he knew who his people were. All right, and where they were. Okay, let's get First Maccabees chapter 1. Chapter 12 in verse 20. It says, Arius, king of the Lacedaemonians, to Onias the high priest, greeting. Now we can get more into the history. This is supposed to be short, so just read First Maccabees chapter 12 on your own, or maybe you already know the history, but I'm just get straight to the point on this. So verse 21, it says, it is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and that they are the stock of Abraham. Now look at that. The Lacedaemonians are just the Spartans. Okay. It says, I pulled up the wiki for Sparta. It says Sparta was a prominent city-state in Laconia in ancient Greece. In antiquity, the city-state was known as Lacedaemon, okay, or in another translation, Lacedaemon. The point is, that's exactly who the Jews or the Israelites of the southern kingdom realized and recognized, that they were the stock of the people that lived in Sparta. And this is around 100 to 200 BC or so that this was written, right here in the book of Maccabees. I think closer to 140 BC, somewhere around there. So point is, our people were still there. This was like 480 BC, the Battle of Thermopylae. But still, our people were still there, and we recognized that we were brethren. Okay. So there were so-called black people in Greece. We used to be there. Okay. I mean, we're still there now, but just not as high of numbers. Okay. Let's get Galatians chapter 3 and verse 28, which we've done a whole lesson on. And I don't think I went into this much detail about, because I think it was mostly dealing with the scripture. So we're just getting a little bit more history and some more evidence to prove the point here. Let's get Galatians chapter 3 and verse 28. It says, there is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female, for you all one, For ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushua. So there's neither Jew nor Greek. That's why Paul said there's neither Jew nor Greek. He wasn't talking about all nations when he said Greek. He was literally referring to the people that called themselves Greek. Okay, the Lacedaemonians, which it says here in Maccabees. Like, you have to understand, a lot of times you see different, terms used. They're all talking about the same people instead of a multitude of different people. When you see Jews here, it's just referring to the tribe of Benjamin or tribe of Judah in the Bible. That's it. And here where it says neither Jew nor Greek, it's not referring to the so-called white man of today. It's just referring to our people that were there in Greece. Now, I said I would talk about this. So these are the helmets that you see the Spartans wearing. Right, you see one right there. See one right there. It's a Corinthian helmet. That's what it's called because it took its name from the city-state of Corinth. That's where our people were. Okay, it was so-called black people that used to don this helmet. And look at this brother here, the bust of Pericles. Pericles was, I think I got to pull it up. Yeah, Pericles, a Greek politician, was a Greek politician in general during the golden ages of Athens, the golden age of Athens. Point I wanted to get to, though, look how his nose is taken out. Anytime you see a structure with the nose taken out, they were either our people, as in Israelites, or another nation of color. And they just don't want you to see that because, if the nose is there, you can tell a lot more clearly with the prominent features that normally so-called black people or even some of the other nations have. Point is, they want you to think that he was an Edomite, but 9.99999 times out of 10, he was not. And that's why they destroyed his nose. And they act like the noses just come off over time, and that's just nonsense. When you see these different busts and statues, and even on the pyramids and things of that nature in Egypt, they act like the noses just come out of nowhere. Now, if you're wondering, though, how our people even got into these lands, it's in the scriptures. It takes, a deeper amount of studying. And really, this Sabbath slice is, the Sabbath slice is not really a beginner type of a lesson. This is for those that are looking to go a little bit deeper into history and things of that nature. But I'm going to put this article down and some other sources that I came across that will talk about how our people even got into these different lands. And then we're going to go over some of the scriptures as well in this particular article. And, not only is this an article, but it references many different ancient writers. Ancient meaning those that wrote different writings around the time of like Herodotus, the Greek historian, in 484 and 425 BC. So this is not like just an opinion based on somebody's perspective. This is actually based on, real history and real evidence. It says, was there more than one exodus out of Egypt? It says the legends of ancient Greece are unanimous in claiming that the people who founded their nation came from Egypt. Okay, not the Egyptians. So let's further read. Furthermore, the time of the arrival of those groups in Greece is also the time of the bondage of the Israelites in Egypt. Okay. The ancient writers all agree that those founders of the Greek nation were, without a doubt, it says without a doubt, Israelite refugees from the Egyptian bondage. So the ancient writers all agree that the founders of the Greek nation, without doubt, were Israelite refugees from the Egyptian bondage. No doubt. You see this? This is no doubt. When you see Paul talking to the quote unquote Gentiles in the New Testament, what all the ancient writers agree is that these people were Israelites, meaning they were so-called black people. Okay. It's here in scripture. It's proven in history. Frank Miller gave you an artistic, view of it so you can get a visual of it, because he understands, he obviously understands history more than a lot of our people do, which is, sad to say, but it's true. Look at that. Clearly a so-called black man. But again, that was a Persian too, but point is, both of these were people of color fighting against each other. But yeah, man, when you go into this article, it gives you all the different sources. I don't want to make this too long. Maybe, I can come back to this and kind of read and go through everything. But for now, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there. And I put the sources in there so y'all can kind of go in there yourself. It says the migrations, let me zoom back in. The migrations out of Egypt led by Danis and Cadmus and the exodus under Moses are not the only ones recorded. Another important Grecian colony was founded by, it's either Cecrops or Kekrops, but probably Cecrops, who became the first legendary king of Attica. So this brother actually founded Troy. So we watched the movie Troy. That was our people there too. Now you can kind of go through this yourself. I went through it. Dang near all of it. Just gonna finish up some of these last paragraphs here. But this is not new information to me. But either way, you can kind of go through this and look how it all connects together. But essentially what happened is you had other Israelites that left out of Egypt before the great Exodus. Okay. And one may think, okay, where is that at in the scriptures? You got to think about it like this. So let's get Psalm chapter 147 and we'll start 18. He sent out his word and melted them. He caused his wind to blow and the waters flow. Verse 19, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments into Israel. Verse 20, he have not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh. So the only nations that got the statute, laws, and commandments and the judgments from the Most High was the nation of Israel, was Jacob and Israel, the northern and southern kingdom. That's it. However, you had people, again, our people, 100% of us did not leave out of Egypt at the time that Moses left out of Egypt. It was already prophesied that we would be scattered. And that didn't just begin, all at the same time. We've been scattered for a while now. And it was to fulfill prophecy. Let's get 2 Esdras chapter 1 and verse 33. Right here. So it says, thus saith the Almighty Lord, your house is desolate. I will cast you out as a wind doth stubble. Verse 34, and your children shall not be fruitful, for they have despised my commandment and done the thing that is evil before me. Okay, so verse 35, your houses will I give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me, yet shall believe me, to whom I have shown no signs, yet they shall do that I have commanded them. Now, when you understand the scriptures, and where a lot of our people ended up, breaking off at was after the Assyrian captivity in 722 BC. Okay. But at that time, we already had our people hear the prophets. So they can't be referring to, this scripture can't be referring to those people. Matter of fact, verse 36, they have seen no prophets, Yet they shall call their sins to remembrance and acknowledge them. So the main group of Israelites that left the land during the Assyrian captivity, they had actually seen the prophets. You have to think about it. At that time, that 722, that's way after. This is 300 years after, well, dang near 300 years, 270 so years after King David and King Solomon and all the different prophets of that time. So this is the people that, never even got a chance to really get the word in a formal way. Okay, like they were supposed to. Verse 37, when I say supposed to, not literal, because of course the Most High knows all, and this is all just prophecy coming into play. But verse 37, I take to witness the grace of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness. And though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. And now, brother, behold, what glory, and see the people that cometh from the east. The people that coming from the east, this is not a new people. So a lot of people will read this and think, oh, this is the Most High casting out Israel. No, the Most High never cast out Israel. Okay, that's all over the scriptures as well. Okay, we can get that real quick. So there's no confusion here. All right, it says here, Jeremiah 31 and 36. Well, let's get 35. Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. 36. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Okay, so until these things happen, the seed of Israel shall not cease from being a nation. But the thing is, these things aren't going to happen. So the seed of Israel shall not ever cease from being a nation before the Most High. 37. Thus saith Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundation of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all they have done, saith Yahweh. So basically, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to measure the foundation of the earth, all right, beneath. So that's just not going to happen. And there's more scriptures that's just blatantly saying that Israel will never be casted away as well. There's one in Psalms. I think this is it. Okay, Psalm chapter 94 and verse 14. For Yahweh will not cast off his people, neither will he forsake his inheritance. So when you read 2nd Esdras chapter 1 and verse 37, the people that come, or the people that were scattered, that left, that didn't get to hear the prophets, that didn't get the word, they didn't see the Most High in a bodily form, as it says, with bodily eyes, rather. Yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. Paul talked about these same people. Let's get Romans chapter 2 and verse 11. For there is no respect of persons with the Most High. And he's referring to the 12 different tribes here, not all the different nations. When you read up, it's not referring to every nation or anything like that. Even when it says the Jew first and the Gentiles, referring to the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Anyway, verse 12. For as many as he have sinned without law shall also perish without law. For as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged judged by the law. For the hearers of the law are just before the Most High, but the doers of the law shall be justified. Verse 14. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves. So look at there. The Gentiles that didn't have the law is not referring to the other nations. Okay. Because remember, we read in Psalms chapter 147 that the Most High has not dealt with any other nation. This is still true. A lot of people will try to get you to believe the Old Testament is done away with, but it's not. Okay. These words still hold true until today and forever. Okay. So second Esdras chapter 1 is referring to the northern kingdom and the other scattered nations that were in Greece, that were all over the place. Okay. And really, Greece is not that far from Egypt or Israel. I mean, relatively speaking, it's not like crazy far. But anyway, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness in their thoughts the mean while accusing or else excusing one another. So the law was written in their hearts. This is referring to the same people that will come, yet in spirit they believe the thing that I say. So in their heart or in their spirit, they believe the word because it was already ordained for them to have it, even though some of them weren't even there. Some of them were there. I mean, it was a mixed bag. You got Israelites that left before the Exodus that have been scattered all over the world. You have those that were scattered during the Assyrian captivity, so on and so forth. So that's who Paul was talking about right there, though. So as I was saying, though, that Troy was founded by Israelites, okay, who the Bible calls Darda. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 30, it says, we'll start at 29. The Most High gave Solomon wisdom and understanding, exceeding much in largeness of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. That's amazing. Verse 30, and Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Haman, and Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahal. And his fame was in all nations round about. Now you have to think about this. Why would Solomon be compared to these men as far as he was being wiser than? If these men weren't really wise themselves, then this wouldn't be an apt comparison. You wouldn't compare, Solomon to someone without wisdom. So these men were, nowhere near on the wisdom level of King Solomon, but they were actually wise themselves. Okay. So if you go back to, this article here and you look up everything that's stated here by the, ancient writers and things of that nature, like here you'll see how Krekops or Calcul or Chakal in 1 Kings 4:31, the brother of Darda was some mythical founder of Athens in his first king. He was thought to be the leader of the band of Hebrew colonists from Egypt. That's in missing links discovered in Assyrian tablets. Okay, you look that up as well. The legends of ancient Greece are unanimous in claiming that the people who founded the nation came from Egypt. Not Egyptians, but Israelite refugees, not Israelite-ish, Israelite refugees. Okay. So Zara's descendants, Zara comes from Judah, fled out of Egypt under the leadership of Darda. Okay. So this also bears the name today, Dardanelles. Dardanus, they established a kingdom later called Troy. That's where I got that from earlier, when I said that Troy was established by Israelites on the southern shore of the narrow body of water, which bears his name to this day. So if you look, see where Troy is. This is where Troy is right here. And this is where Dardanelles is. It's the same place. So Dardanelles is essentially Troy. Where did they get that from? From Darda. Okay, because he established Troy. So Israelites were in Troy as well. We've been all over the place. A lot of places that so-called white people claim to be from, we're really from there. A lot of places in Europe, Scotland, but Scot just means so-called black. Denmark is from the tribe of Dan, Dansmark. Britain, which is the man of the covenant. Brit just means covenant. So Britain is the man of the covenant, or the people of the covenant. A lot of places in Europe, man, that we really from. When I say us, so-called black people are Israelites. Okay. So again, you can kind of look up all this stuff on your own. And we have another one here that says the following article gives historical evidence that ancient Greece was founded and populated in part by immigrants from Egypt, but who were in fact Israelites. So this is another article that shows, historical facts that show that that's true. But I'm not sure how long I've been recording. I think we've been going for a minute. I just wanted to kind of get in and get out. But just to show you that, and look, that's a so-called black woman. I think that may be, that's Leonidas's wife. So, the Spartan women were so-called black women. That's why they were so dang feisty, man. Did you see the movie 300? How his wife was feisty? No so-called white woman that doggone spicy, man. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this. It's one of these things you got to really go in and do your research on. Take some time out to get more edification on. But, our people, we did rule Greece at one point in time in a lot of different areas in Europe, and all over the place. So-called white man is not from anywhere except for the mountains and Caucasus, the Caucasus Mountains. All right. And Mount Seir. That's it. Everywhere it was either us or some other people of color that's originally from there. And that's all I got for now. And with that, peace. Shalom.